Admiral Aleksandra stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking at the blue planet through the viewing screen. His reptilian eyes studied the third planet from the yellow star. Earth, the humans called it. His scouts had told him this would be easy. The beings here had barely reached their own moon. They were primitive, weak, perfect for conquest. The Admiral's scales shimmered dark green in the bridge lights. He had conquered 47 worlds for the hegemony fleet. This would be number 48. His crew of 200 warships spread across space like hungry wolves. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Together they could burn entire continents. "Admiral," his communication officer hissed, "we are receiving signals from the planet. Multiple sources." Aleksandara's forked tongue flicked out. "What do they say?" "They are asking us to identify ourselves and state our purpose." The bridge crew made sounds that passed for laughter among their species. How dare these primitive beings make demands? Aleksandra had destroyed species far more advanced than these mammals. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Let me speak to whoever leads these creatures." The screen flickered. Instead of showing a cowering primitive, it displayed a human female in a clean military uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back neatly. Her brown eyes were calm and steady. She did not look afraid. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force," the human said. "You have entered Earth's territorial space without permission. Please, identify yourselves and your intentions." Aleksandara's crew fell silent. No conquered species had ever spoken to them like this. Most begged for mercy before the first shot was fired. "I am Admiral Aleksandra of the Hegemony Fleet," he said, his voice carrying the authority of countless victories. "Your world now belongs to the Galactic Council. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick." Commander Chen's expression did not change. She looked almost bored. "Admiral, you seem to be under a misunderstanding. This is Terran space, and you are not welcome here. You have 30 seconds to change course and leave our system. If you do not comply, we will be forced to defend ourselves." The Admiral's bridge erupted in hissing laughter. His weapons officer, a scarred veteran of many battles, spoke up. "Admiral, should we show them what happens to species who refuse to surrender?" Aleksandra nodded. "Target their orbital stations. Make them understand who they are dealing with." But as his fleet prepared to fire, warning alarms began screaming across every ship. The tactical displays lit up with hundreds of new contacts. Objects that had appeared to be space debris were moving. Asteroids were changing course. What they had thought were mining stations were powering up massive weapons. "Admiral," his tactical officer shouted, his voice cracking with panic. "The entire system is armed. Everything is a weapon." Commander Chen's voice came through the speakers again, still calm and professional. "Admiral, your 30 seconds are up. All human vessels and defense platforms, you are authorized to defend Terran space." The first human attack came from everywhere at once. Asteroids that had been floating peacefully suddenly accelerated to incredible speeds. Aimed directly at the hegemony ships, what the aliens had thought were rocks turned out to be guided missiles covered in real asteroid material. Aleksandra watched in horror as 3 of his ships disappeared in brilliant flashes of light. The kinetic impact of the asteroid missiles tore through their shields like they were made of paper. His shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not massive chunks of rock traveling at impossible speeds. "Return fire," he screamed. His ships launched their plasma cannons and particle beams. The weapons that had destroyed countless worlds fired at full power. But the humans were already moving. Their ships were smaller than his, but they moved like living things. They dodged and weaved through space in patterns that made no sense. More human weapons activated. Space stations that looked like communication arrays revealed themselves as massive railguns. They fired metal slugs the size of cars at speeds that bent physics. When these projectiles hit his ships, they punched clean through from one side to the other. "How is this possible?" Aleksandra whispered. "Our intelligence said they were primitive." His science officer's claws were shaking as he worked at his console. "Admiral, I'm detecting technology we don't understand. They've weaponized their entire solar system. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris, every satellite is part of their defense network." A new group of human ships appeared from behind, Earth's moon. These were larger than the first wave but still smaller than hegemony vessels. Yet when they fired, the impacts sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. Commander Chen's face appeared on the screen again. Around her, the human bridge was busy but not panicked. Her crew worked with the efficiency of people who had trained for this moment. "Admiral," she said, "you have lost 47 ships in the last 10 minutes. I'm prepared to accept your surrender." Aleksandra could not believe what he was hearing. His species had ruled space for 1,000 years. They had never been challenged like this. "Impossible. We are the hegemony fleet. We have conquered nearly 1,000 worlds, and now you've met one you can't conquer," Commander Chen replied. "Your weapons are impressive, Admiral, but you're fighting in our home system. Every rock, every piece of metal, every floating piece of ice has been turned into part of our defense. You're not just fighting our ships. You're fighting our entire solar system." As if to prove her point, more attacks came from unexpected directions. A human freighter that looked completely civilian suddenly opened up with hidden weapons. Mining ships that should have been helpless fired missiles from concealed launchers. Even the space elevators connecting Earth to its orbital platforms were armed with defensive systems. Aleksandра's remaining ships tried to form defensive formations, but the humans seemed to predict every move. Their attacks came from above, below, and from angles that shouldn't have been possible. They used the gravity of planets and moons to slingshot their weapons at impossible speeds. "Admiral," his communication officer called out, "I'm receiving an emergency transmission from the Galactic Council. They want a status report." "Tell them," Aleksandra said, watching another of his ships explode under human fire. "Tell them we have encountered something unexpected. These humans are not primitive, they are not weak, and they are definitely not easy to conquer." Commander Chen's voice came through the speakers one more time. "Admiral, I'm going to make this simple. You came here expecting to find a weak species to enslave. Instead, you found humans. We've been fighting each other and our hostile environment for thousands of years. War isn't something we fear. It's something we understand better than any species in the galaxy." She paused, and for the first time Aleksandra saw her smile. It was not a kind smile. "You wanted to see what humans do when threatened, Admiral. Now you know. The question is, are you smart enough to leave while you still can?" Looking at his tactical display showing 60 of his ships destroyed or disabled, Admiral Aleksandra began to wonder if conquering Earth had been a mistake. A very big mistake. Commander Sarah Chen walked through the command center of Orbital Defense Platform Alpha. Around her, hundreds of technicians worked at their stations, coordinating humanity's defense of Earth. She had not wanted this fight, but she was ready for it. The platform hung in space like a metal city. From the outside, it looked like a peaceful research station. Inside, it was one of the most powerful military installations ever built by human hands. Sarah had helped design it herself, back when she was just a lieutenant with big ideas about space defense. "Commander," her tactical officer called out, "the alien fleet is regrouping. They're trying to form a battle line." Sarah nodded and moved to the main display screen. It showed the space around Earth filled with red dots representing enemy ships. There were still over 150 of them left. Each one was 3 times the size of humanity's largest warship. "Let them form up," she said calmly. "It will make them easier targets." Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, looked concerned. "Commander, their big ships, our kinetic rounds are effective, but they have thick armor. If they concentrate their firepower—" "Marcus," Sarah interrupted, "how long have you known me?" "8 years, ma'am. In those 8 years, have I ever led you into a fight I didn't think we could win?" Marcus smiled. "No, ma'am, but there's always a first time." Sarah laughed. "Not today. Today these aliens learn why humanity spent 200 years turning our solar system into a fortress." She turned to address her crew. "Listen up, everyone. What we do in the next few hours will determine whether Earth remains free or becomes another conquered world. These aliens think we're primitive because we haven't spread across the galaxy. They don't understand that we stayed in our solar system Because we were building something special. The crew members at their stations nodded. They all knew the history. After humans developed faster-than-light communication, they discovered they were not alone in the universe. They listened to alien broadcasts for 50 years, learning about the Galactic Council and the Hegemony Fleet. They learned about conquest and slavery. They learned that peaceful species were crushed under the boots of stronger ones. So humanity made a choice. Instead of rushing out to meet their galactic neighbors, they stayed home and prepared. They turned asteroids into weapons, platforms. They built shipyards inside hollow moons. They created a defense network that stretched from Mercury to Pluto. Incoming transmission from the alien admiral, the communication officer announced. Put him on screen, Sarah ordered. Admiral Xenothera's reptilian face appeared, looking angry and confused. Behind him, his bridge showed signs of damage from the first wave of fighting. Human commander, he hissed, you have destroyed 60 of my ships with some kind of trickery, but I still have more than enough vessels to burn your world. Surrender now and I will allow half of your species to live as slaves. Sarah's expression remained perfectly calm. Admiral, I think you misunderstand the situation. You're not negotiating from a position of strength. You're trapped in our solar system, surrounded by our defenses, facing weapons you don't understand. Trapped? Xenothera laughed, a sound like steam escaping from a broken pipe. Little human, I have traveled between the stars for 300 years. Nothing can trap the Hegemony Fleet. Computer, Sarah said to the platform's artificial intelligence, show Admiral Xenothera tactical display Delta 7. The screen changed to show the entire solar system. Thousands of objects were highlighted in blue, representing human defensive positions. They surrounded the alien fleet completely. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, missile launchers hidden in the asteroid belt, and armed stations positioned at every major gravitational point. Xenothera's eyes widened as he saw the display. This is impossible. Our sensors show only empty space. Your sensors show what we want them to show, Sarah explained. We've had 50 years to prepare for this moment. Every piece of space debris in this system has been cataloged, positioned, and in many cases, weaponized. You didn't just fly into a solar system, Admiral. You flew into the biggest trap in galactic history. The alien admiral's tongue flicked out nervously. You cannot have turned every asteroid into a weapon. The energy requirements alone. You're right, Sarah agreed. We didn't weaponize every asteroid. Some of them are just regular rocks. But can you tell which ones? Are you willing to bet your remaining ships on guessing correctly? On cue, 3 more asteroids began moving toward the alien fleet. These ones were different from the first wave. They moved slower, more obviously. The alien ships immediately fired at them, destroying them with concentrated plasma fire. See? Xenothera said triumphantly. Your rock weapons can be stopped. Sarah smiled. Those weren't weapons, Admiral. Those were decoys. While your ships were busy shooting at fake threats, our real weapons were getting into position. Alarms began sounding on the alien bridge as new contacts appeared on their sensors. A dozen human ships had somehow moved to within firing range without being detected. They were sleek vessels, smaller than the alien dreadnoughts but clearly built for speed and stealth. How did they get so close? Xenothera demanded of his crew. His sensor officer's voice shook with fear. Admiral, they were hiding in the debris field from our destroyed ships. They used our own wreckage as camouflage. The human ships opened fire, but not with the kinetic weapons the aliens had seen before. These ships launched a new type of missile, ones that seemed to dance through space, avoiding the alien defense systems with impossible grace. Those missiles are using our own ship debris as guidance systems, Xenothera's tactical officer reported. They're following the trails of our destroyed vessels to find targets. Sarah's voice came through their communications again. Admiral, those missiles contain a special gift from Earth. Each one carries a small piece of our planet's core material. The densest matter we could find, accelerated to 0.97 light speed. Even a piece the size of a marble will go through your largest ship like a bullet through paper. The first missiles struck home. Alien dreadnoughts that had seemed invincible moments before suddenly had holes punched completely through them. The dense core material traveled so fast that it didn't just penetrate their hulls, it vaporized everything in its path. "This is not warfare," Xenothara screamed. "This is madness. Civilized species do not fight like this." "Admiral," Sarah replied, "you came to our solar system to enslave or kill every human alive. You didn't come here for civilized warfare. You came here for genocide, so we responded appropriately." More human ships appeared from hiding places throughout the system. Some had been disguised as communication satellites. Others had been hiding behind the larger moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Each group used different weapons and tactics, keeping the alien fleet off balance. Lieutenant Commander Webb approached Sarah's command station. "Commander, we're receiving reports from our deep space monitoring stations. The aliens are broadcasting for help. They're calling for reinforcements." Sarah nodded. "Let them call. By the time help arrives, this fight will be over." She opened a channel to all human defense forces. "All stations, all ships, all platforms, execute Operation Mousetrap." Across the solar system, thousands of hidden weapons came online simultaneously. The space around the alien fleet filled with missile trails, energy beams, and kinetic projectiles. What had started as a battle became something closer to a controlled demolition. Admiral Xenothara watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by weapons and tactics he had never imagined. These humans didn't just fight to survive. They seemed to enjoy the challenge of combat. Every time his ships adapted to one type of attack, the humans switched to something completely different. "Commander Chen," he said finally, his voice defeated. "What kind of species are you?" Sarah's answer was simple and terrifying. "We're the species that turned our entire solar system into a weapon, Admiral, and you just helped us test it." Dr. Kelthera's forearms worked frantically at her research station deep within the Galactic Council chambers. As the Council's chief xenopsychologist, she had studied over 300 different species. She thought she understood how intelligent life developed across the galaxy. The reports coming from the Sol system were changing everything she believed. The tall, insect-like being paused to clean her large compound eyes with a specialized cloth. Around her, the emergency session of the Galactic Council was in chaos. Representatives from 47 different worlds were shouting, clicking, hissing, and making whatever sounds their species used to express panic. Silence. The deep voice of Chancellor Morton boomed across the chamber. The massive rock-like being stood 4 meters tall and had served as council leader for 2 centuries. "Dr. Kelthera, present your findings." Kelthera's delicate limbs trembled as she activated the holographic display. Images from the battle at Earth appeared in 3-dimensional detail above the council floor. The assembled representatives fell silent as they watched human ships and weapons tear through the hegemony fleet. "Honored council members," Kelthera began, her voice carrying the musical tones of her species. "What we are witnessing is unprecedented in galactic history. These beings, who call themselves humans, display combat characteristics unlike any species we have encountered." The hologram zoomed in on a human warship engaging 3 alien dreadnoughts simultaneously. The human vessel was smaller and should have been destroyed quickly. Instead, it danced between the larger ships, using their own size against them while landing precise strikes on weak points. "Observe their tactical behavior," Kelthera continued. "Most species follow predictable combat patterns based on their evolutionary development. Hive minds fight in coordinated swarms. Pack hunters use group tactics. Solitary predators rely on individual strength. But humans—" She paused, manipulating the controls to show multiple human ships fighting in the same battle. Each one used completely different tactics. Some fought in groups, others alone. Some used stealth, others direct assault. Some sacrificed themselves for a strategic advantage. Others preserved themselves while maximizing enemy damage. Humans appear to combine every possible combat style simultaneously. They fight as individuals and as groups. They use logic and emotion. They plan carefully and improvise wildly. It's as if their entire species consists of tactical geniuses. Council member Vexeloth, a gas-based life form speaking through a mechanical translator, interrupted. "Dr. Kelthera, surely you exaggerate. No species can be naturally gifted at warfare. Kelthera's antennae twitched, a sign of distress among her people. I wish I were exaggerating, but I have analyzed their planet's history. Honored council members, humans have been at war continuously for their entire recorded history. Not just tribal conflicts or territorial disputes. They wage war as art, science, and philosophy all at once. The hologram changed to show images downloaded from human data networks. Battles throughout Earth's history appeared in sequence. Ancient armies with spears and shields, medieval knights on horseback, sailing ships firing cannons, aircraft diving through clouds, and finally, modern military forces with advanced technology. They have been fighting each other for 6,000 years, Kelthera explained. During this time, they developed not just weapons, but entirely new ways of thinking about conflict. They study war like we study mathematics. They have universities dedicated to military strategy. They write poetry about battles. They create art celebrating both victory and defeat. The council chamber erupted in confused chatter. Representative Thokmar of the Brutish clans, a species known for their warrior culture, spoke up. Dr. Kelthera, the Brutish clans have fought for millennia. We are considered the galaxy's premier warriors. What makes these humans different? With respect, Representative Thokmar, your people fight for honor and territory. Humans fight for every reason imaginable. They wage war for resources, for ideas, for religion, for freedom, for revenge, for justice, and sometimes just to prove they can win. They have turned conflict into the highest form of intellectual expression. The hologram showed footage from the current battle, focusing on human facial expressions visible through helmet visors and cockpit windows. Instead of fear or grim determination, many of the humans looked excited. Some were even smiling. Most disturbing of all, Kelthera continued, they appear to enjoy combat, not in the bloodthirsty way of savage species, but as an intellectual challenge. Watch their faces. These beings are having fun. Chancellor Morthan's rocky features shifted into what might have been concern. Dr. Kelthera, are you suggesting that humans are naturally violent? No, Chancellor. That's what makes them truly terrifying. Analysis of their culture shows they also produce incredible art, music, literature, and philosophy. They are simultaneously the most violent and most peaceful species we have encountered. They can create beautiful poetry about love in the morning and design new weapons in the afternoon. The hologram changed to show human cities from orbit. Peaceful, beautiful settlements full of gardens and art galleries sat next to massive military installations. Universities teaching literature existed on the same campuses as military academies. They are a species of contradictions, Kelthera explained. They hate war and love peace, yet they excel at both. They create weapons capable of destroying their entire planet, then write laws to prevent their use. They form armies to fight each other, then unite those same armies to fight natural disasters. Council member Zilnara, whose aquatic species had never experienced warfare, made bubbling sounds of confusion. How is such a species possible? Evolution should not produce beings who are both aggressive and peaceful. Kelthera's research had found the answer to this question, and it chilled her to her core. Their planet is a death world, honored member. Earth experiences regular mass extinctions, extreme weather, dangerous predators, and natural disasters. Humans evolved to survive in an environment trying to kill them constantly. New images appeared showing Earth's harsh conditions: tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, blizzards, floods, and hurricanes. Then came footage of humans not fleeing these disasters, but working together to fight them. They learned to cooperate and compete simultaneously. They developed the ability to fight their environment and each other, while still maintaining social bonds. They are persistence predators, who became pack hunters, who became individual warriors who never forgot how to work together. The council chamber fell completely silent as the implications sank in. They were not dealing with a normal species. They had encountered evolution's perfect survivors, beings who could adapt to any threat, fight any battle, and still maintain the social structures necessary for advanced civilization. What recommendations do you have, Dr. Kelthera? Chancellor Morton asked quietly. Kelthera looked around the chamber at representatives from species that had survived for millions of years by avoiding conflict, forming alliances, and finding peaceful solutions to problems. All of them were looking at her with expressions of fear. "We have 3 options," she said finally. "First, we can attempt to destroy them with overwhelming force. This will likely result in catastrophic casualties and may not succeed. Second, we can quarantine their system and hope they never develop faster than light travel. Third, we can invite them to join the Council as equals." "The third option seems safest," said Representative Korthak of the Peaceful Collective. "Actually," Kelthera replied, "the third option is the most dangerous of all. If we invite humans to join galactic civilization, we must understand that we are not just adding another member species. We are fundamentally changing what galactic civilization means." The hologram showed one final image, a human child learning to play chess while her parents watched proudly. The little girl was 6 years old and was already thinking 5 moves ahead. "Humans don't just fight wars," Kelthera concluded. "They think in terms of strategy and tactics about everything. If they join our civilization within a generation, they will either be leading it or they will have remade it entirely to suit their way of thinking. They cannot help themselves. It is who they are." The Galactic Council sat in stunned silence, finally understanding that they were not just dealing with a new species. They were confronting their future. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the human battleship Unconquered, watching the reinforcement fleet approach through the view screen. 300 more alien ships had arrived to join what remained of Admiral Zexathara's forces. The Kaoi combined enemy fleet now numbered over 400 vessels, each one larger and more heavily armed than her ship. Elena smiled. She had been waiting her entire career for a fight like this. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "enemy fleet is moving into attack formation. They're spreading out to prevent us from using area effect weapons." "Smart," Elena nodded. "They're learning from their mistakes. What about our own reinforcements?" "Admiral Chen has deployed the reserve fleets from Jupiter and Saturn stations. The Ghost Squadron is moving into position behind Neptune. The Wolfpack is ready to strike from the asteroid belt." Elena's smile widened. The aliens thought they knew what they were facing. They had no idea that humanity's first response had been just a test of their defenses. The real war was about to begin. "All ships," she announced over the fleet communication channel. "This is Captain Vasquez. Today we show these invaders why humans never surrender. Today we teach the galaxy what happens when someone threatens our home." Across the solar system, over 200 human warships acknowledged her transmission. Each ship was unique, modified by its crew for specific combat roles. Some were built for speed, others for raw firepower. Some specialized in electronic warfare, others in ramming attacks. The human fleet looked like a collection of different species ships rather than vessels from a single world. The alien reinforcements were led by Fleet Commander Krathos, a massive being from the hegemony's warrior caste. His ship, the Worldbreaker, was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. He had come to Earth expecting to find the remains of Admiral Zexathara's fleet and a conquered world. Instead, he found a battle still raging. "Admiral Zexathara," Krathos's voice boomed across the communication channel. "Report your status." Zexathara's reply came from his heavily damaged flagship. "Fleet Commander, these humans are not what our intelligence reports suggested. They have turned their entire solar system into a weapons platform. I have lost over half my fleet." "Impossible," Krathos snarled. "You commanded 200 of our finest vessels. How can primitives destroy the hegemony fleet? See for yourself." Zexathara replied grimly. As if responding to his words, the space around the alien reinforcements suddenly filled with weapons fire. Asteroids that had appeared harmless began accelerating toward the fleet. Space stations that looked like communication arrays revealed themselves as massive railguns. Most terrifying of all, human ships seemed to appear out of nowhere. The Ghost Squadron had been hiding in the shadow of Neptune, their hulls coated with materials that absorbed sensor energy. They struck the rear of the alien formation like invisible hammers. their weapons designed specifically to penetrate heavy armor. Krathos watched in disbelief as 3 of his dreadnoughts were crippled in the first 30 seconds of combat. "How are they hiding from our sensors?" His science officer's voice shook with fear. "Fleet Commander, they're using stealth technology we don't understand. Their ships seem to bend sensor waves around themselves." "Then use visual targeting." "Sir, they're moving too fast for visual locks, and they're using some kind of camouflage that makes them blend into the background of space." Captain Elena observed the alien confusion from her command chair. Humanity had spent 2 centuries preparing for this day. They had studied every alien ship design they could detect, analyzed every weapon system, and developed counters for each one. "Tactical," she ordered. "Initiate Plan Omega." Her tactical officer's eyes lit up. Plan Omega was the most dangerous strategy in human military doctrine. It involved using their own ships as weapons. "Captain, are you sure? Plan Omega means..." "I know what it means, Lieutenant. Do it." Across the human fleet, captains received the same order. Plan Omega was not just a battle tactic. It was a statement of human determination. It meant they would rather destroy their own ships than let the enemy win. The Unconquered suddenly accelerated toward the center of the alien formation. Elena's crew worked frantically at their stations, not to avoid destruction, but to ensure their ship would cause maximum damage when it was destroyed. "All hands," Elena announced over the ship's internal communication system. "This is the captain. In 60 seconds, we're going to ram the enemy flagship. Escape pods are launching now. It has been my honor to serve with all of you." The crew. Evacuation proceeded with military precision. In less than a minute, everyone except Elena and her senior officers had left the ship. The remaining crew stayed at their posts, guiding the Unconquered toward its target while fighting off alien attempts to stop them. Fleet Commander Krathos realized what was happening just as the human battleship reached attack speed. "All weapons. Target that ship. Stop it before it reaches us." Hundreds of alien weapons fired at the Unconquered. The human ship's shields flared and failed. Its armor was stripped away by concentrated energy beams. But Elena had planned for this. As the ship took damage, she used the explosions to mask her final maneuver. At the last moment, the Unconquered fired its remaining missiles directly into the Worldbreaker's main weapon systems, then spun to present its most heavily armored section toward the alien flagship. The collision was spectacular. 3 kilometers of alien dreadnought met 600 meters of human determination. The Unconquered punched through the Worldbreaker's hull like a bullet, its momentum carrying it completely through the larger ship before both vessels exploded in a brilliant flash of light. But Elena's sacrifice was not unique. Across the battlefield, other human captains made the same choice. When their weapons ran out, they used their ships as weapons. When their ships were too damaged to fight, they turned them into guided missiles. Admiral Aleksandra watched in horror as humanity's tactics became clear. These beings did not fight to preserve their forces. They fought to achieve victory regardless of the cost to themselves. "They're insane," he whispered to his bridge crew. "They're using their own ships as ammunition." His sensor officer's voice was filled with awe and terror. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive movement throughout the system. More human ships are approaching from every direction." The reserve fleets Elena had mentioned were arriving, ships that had been hiding in the gas giants' rings, in asteroid mining facilities, and behind the larger moons. Each fleet used different tactics and weapons, keeping the alien forces constantly off balance. The Wolfpack specialized in hit-and-run attacks, striking quickly and disappearing before the aliens could respond. The Hammer fleet carried the heaviest weapons humanity had ever built, designed to break enemy formations with overwhelming firepower. The Scalpel Squadron used precision strikes to disable specific enemy systems. But the most terrifying revelation came when the human ships began coordinating their attacks in ways that seemed impossible. Ships from different fleets using different tactics somehow combined their efforts into seamless battle plans. Krathos' tactical officer made a discovery that chilled him to his core. "Fleet Commander, the human ships are sharing information instantaneously across their entire fleet. Every ship knows the position and status of every other ship in real time. How is that possible?" They appear to have created a quantum communication network linking every vessel. Each ship is both an independent fighting unit and part of a larger organism. They fight as individuals and as a collective simultaneously. As the battle continued, the aliens began to understand the true scope of human preparation. This was not just a defense of Earth. This was a demonstration of what happened when an entire species dedicated itself to the art of warfare while maintaining the cooperation necessary for advanced technology. The humans were not just fighting for their planet. They were showing the galaxy what they were capable of, and the galaxy was watching with a mixture of horror and admiration. Admiral Xethara's final transmission before his flagship was destroyed was broadcast across the Galactic Council's emergency network. Council, be warned. These humans do not fight like any civilized species. They fight like they were born for war, and they're winning. Ambassador Maria Santos walked slowly through the vast corridors of the Galactic Council station. Her simple black diplomatic uniform looked plain compared to the elaborate costumes worn by representatives from 47 different worlds. But every being she passed stopped to stare at her with a mixture of fear and respect. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Sol. The Hegemony Fleet's survivors had limped back to Council space with tales that sounded like mythology. An entire species that fought like demons but built cities like angels. Beings who could turn asteroids into weapons, but also created art that brought tears to alien eyes. The council chamber was the largest enclosed space Maria had ever seen. Representatives from dozens of species sat in floating platforms arranged in concentric circles around a central speaking area. The architecture was designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. It didn't work on Maria. She had grown up on Luna Colony, where humans had built cities inside airless moons. This was just another big room. Chancellor Morthan's massive stone form loomed above her as she approached the speaker's platform. Ambassador Santos of the Terran Federation, you have requested an audience with the full council. State your purpose. Maria activated the translation device that would allow her words to be understood by every species present. Honored Chancellor, distinguished representatives, I come before you today not as a conqueror but as a neighbor. Humanity wishes to join the Galactic Council as a member species. The chamber erupted in sounds that ranged from horrified gasps to angry shouts. Representative Vexloth of the Gas Collective made bubbling sounds that the translator rendered as, "The Council cannot allow a warrior species membership. You have demonstrated capabilities that threaten galactic peace." Maria had expected this response. Representative Vexloth, with respect, humanity did not seek conflict. We were invaded by the Hegemony Fleet without provocation. We defended ourselves, as is the right of any species. Defended yourselves? The voice belonged to Fleet Admiral Korthan, the highest-ranking military officer in the Council's service. You destroyed 400 Hegemony vessels, including some of the most powerful warships in galactic history. That was not defense, it was annihilation. Admiral, Maria replied calmly, let me tell you what defense means to humans. When the Hegemony Fleet arrived at Earth, they declared their intention to enslave or kill every human alive. 6 billion people, including children, elderly, and civilians who had never harmed anyone. They came to commit genocide, Admiral. We responded accordingly. She gestured to the holographic display that appeared above the chamber floor. It showed images from Earth, cities full of parks and schools, universities where young humans studied art and science, hospitals where human doctors worked to save lives. This is what the Hegemony Fleet wanted to destroy, Maria continued. Not a military target, not a strategic resource, but an entire civilization. Our response was proportional to the threat. Dr. Kelthera's insect form clicked nervously as she spoke. Ambassador Santos, our analysis of human culture shows that your species has been in a state of continuous warfare for thousands of years. How can we trust a people who know only conflict? Maria smiled, and several alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. They had learned to fear human smiles. Dr. Kelthera, your analysis is both correct and incomplete. Humans have indeed fought many wars. We have also ended slavery on our world, created systems of justice that protect the innocent, and developed medicine that has eliminated diseases that once killed millions. The holographic display changed to show human achievements. Magnificent art galleries, concert halls where beautiful music played, libraries containing millions of books, and laboratories where human scientists worked to unlock the mysteries of the universe. We are a species that has learned from our mistakes, Maria continued. Every war we fought taught us something about the price of conflict. Every battle we won made us more determined to find peaceful solutions. We became good at warfare precisely because we understand how terrible it is. Chancellor Morthan's voice rumbled through the chamber. Ambassador, what assurance can you give that humanity will not use its military capabilities against Council member species? Maria had been waiting for this question. It was the heart of everything. Chancellor, I can give you the word of a species that has spent the last 50 years building defenses instead of attack fleets. When we discovered we were not alone in the universe, we could have built ships to explore and conquer. Instead, we built shields to protect our home. She paused, looking around the chamber at representatives from species that had survived for millions of years by avoiding conflict. More importantly, she continued, I can offer you something the Galactic Council has never had before, a species willing and able to defend it. The chamber fell silent. This was something none of them had expected. For 10,000 years, Maria said, the Council has maintained peace through negotiation and compromise. This has worked because all member species prefer cooperation to conflict. But what happens when you encounter a species that doesn't share those values? What do you do when someone like the Hegemony Fleet decides that negotiation is for the weak? Representative Thokmar of the brutish clans, whose people were considered the galaxy's best warriors, spoke up. The brutish clans have always provided military protection for the Council. With respect, Representative Thokmar, your people are brave warriors who fight for honor and glory. Humans fight for survival. There is a difference. The holographic display showed footage from the Battle of Sol, human ships sacrificing themselves to protect Earth, crews evacuating damaged vessels while their captains stayed behind to guide them into ramming attacks, pilots flying impossible missions against overwhelming odds. When humans fight, we fight to win at any cost, Maria explained. Not because we love war, but because we love peace too much to let others destroy it. We understand that sometimes the only way to preserve what you value is to be willing to sacrifice everything for it. Dr. Kilthera's antennae twitched with curiosity. Ambassador, what exactly are you proposing? Maria's next words would change galactic civilization forever. I propose that humanity becomes the Council's military arm. We will be your guardians, your protectors, your last line of defense against any species that threatens the peace you have built. The chamber erupted again, but this time the sounds were different. Instead of fear and anger, there was hope and relief mixed with the concern. We ask only to be treated as equals, Maria continued over the noise. To have a voice in council decisions that affect galactic civilization. In return, we offer our protection to any species that needs it. Never again will peaceful people have to face extinction because they chose cooperation over conquest. Chancellor Morthan raised his massive hand for silence. Ambassador Santos, this proposal is unprecedented. The Council has never had a military protector species. With respect, Chancellor, the Council has never needed one before, but the galaxy is changing. The Hegemony Fleet was just the beginning. There are other aggressive species out there, other threats to peace. Humanity can stand between them and the civilizations you have sworn to protect. She looked around the chamber one final time. Honored representatives, I stand before you as the voice of a species that has learned the true cost of war. We know that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. We know that freedom is not free but must be defended by those willing to pay its price. The vote took 6 hours of debate. In the end, it was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, the Council welcomed a species not for their contributions to art, science, or philosophy, but for their willingness to fight for others. As Maria left the chamber, she passed Admiral Zexathara, one of the few hegemony survivors. The reptilian being looked at her with something that might have been respect. Human, he said quietly. I came to your world expecting to find prey. Instead, I found predators. But now I understand something else. You are not just predators, you are guardians. Maria nodded. Admiral, there's an old human saying, those who beat their swords into plowshares usually end up plowing for those who didn't. We learned long ago that sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be prepared for war. 6 months later, the first human patrol ships began operating in Council space. Their mission was simple: protect the peaceful, defend the innocent, and ensure that no species would ever again have to face extinction alone. The galaxy had found its guardians, and the guardians had found their purpose.